Are we level-ish? So, I had somebody ask a really good question on Instagram today. By the way, if you follow me on Twitter or Instagram or subscribe to my Patreon, you can ask me questions all day. The question was, if you've just got a keytar, what do you practice? And I'm gonna start out with an absolute no shit Sherlock moment and say you should pick a thing and learn how to play it. I solved it. Now that I've solved how to practice, everybody go practice 40 hours a day. It's gonna be great. Anyhow, where do you go from picking a song and deciding you're going to learn to play it? First of all, you probably want to pick an easy song with like 3 or 4 chords that's relatively slow. You can go on to like ultimateguitar.com, type in the song, and then you'll look and it'll tell you how many chords are in the song. It'll also tell you what the chords are, and that's very handy. I think almost every song that I initially learned on Keytar, I learned... What am I doing with my hand? Oh gosh, there's a little bit of lag in the camera, so if I get this going at the right frequency, then my hand is the backwards of what I'm doing. Wake up! Focus! So if you have a... Shit, man. My hand was so distracting. So you can pick a song and just play those chords and see where you go. What do I want to learn today? Where the shit is... My phone's under the cat. There's the cat, there's my phone. You can pick some kind of slow chords, go into your... Slow down the attack a little bit, and if you've had a bad time at one of my parties, well, I wouldn't expect to be seeing you soon, and that's fine. So you can just go through, play the chords for however long it is. That gets you really used to something that just comes naturally on keyboard and doesn't come naturally on guitar, which is when you're playing a bunch of chords, you can figure out if you had a bad time is in the key of C. The key of C is... So you know once you're in the key of C, you know that generally if you're playing sharps and flats, there's something funky going on. You know, literally any song that uses 4 chords, you pick Don't Stop Believin' by Journey. It's like the epitome of the 4 chords. And you just play the chord as you're singing that bit. When you're practicing Keytar, it is completely acceptable to use both hands, but it helps if you do the chords with your right hand and the melody with your left hand, which also makes you look cool when you go and sit down at somebody's piano and play it backwards. Fun thing, if you're playing harp, you can switch your hands really easily, because they're just like this. If you're playing a really complicated bass line, you can just like swap hands quietly, and then your hand that's generally got more dexterity is leading. My right hand definitely has more dexterity, because I don't play piano, I play Keytar. As you then work out what you're doing, you can break your chords up into broken chords, like instead of playing C all at once, you can go... Or you can get into your arpeggios, where you play the chord, and then play the octave. That's really great if you're in 4/4 time, because then you can just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. You can... get into alternating chords. I'm all alone, but I'm drinking for 2. Drowning the man that I used to be. Nobody loves you like me. You can play around with breaking up and moving your chords, especially if you're following the chords in a guitar part. I did a whole video on playing Keytar like a guitarist, but you can always just like set your synth to sound slightly more guitar-y. It definitely sounds like a guitar right there. It sounds more like a guitar than that does. So we're gonna call that guitar noise. I am too lazy to actually change the instrument. We're just gonna fuck around with the cutoff and call it several instruments. It's great. You look up chords and you start playing those chords and just find songs you like. More songs you like, the more you're gonna know your chords. I recommend that you pick a song that has a riff and a chordy part. Technical terms. That means that when you're like practicing, I think it's very important to fall into default chord progressions where you can say, okay, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm gonna just noodle around. I tend to play. Just something my friend wrote. Currently, I'm a big fan of this chord progression. By the way, they're vortex owners. If you don't have any pads to trigger, or any things you want to trigger with the drum pads, setting them to a low C scale is kind of fun, because then you can get bass involved. It's not in a particularly convenient place, but it is fun. Pick a song, or just pick a chord progression and a riff, and just practice them until you're absurdly good. Because if you go into a music store and you're looking at a new keytar, you don't want to be so self-conscious that you don't know how to test it out. You end up chickening out, going home, and not buying the keytar. And any option that involves you not buying the keytar is not the ideal option. If you can't find chords, or you find the chords for a song but you don't know what the riff is, open the song in VLC, slow it down, and just kind of sit there and play notes to try to figure out if you can match any of the notes. This is significantly easier to do on a keyboard type instrument than it is on a guitar, because if your guitar is tuned a little bit weird, it's not going to match up and it's going to be a lot harder, but you can just kind of sit there and be like... And, you know, you don't look particularly good doing that, but that's what bedroom playing is for. You're not going to go try to learn a song at open mic night. Better know it by then. And if you don't have VLC installed on your computer, I can't trust you as a human being. There's 3 major advantages to playing guitar. One is that you look cool and you get to be part of the community. That counts as one. The other is that you can run around and piss off your guitar friends. And number 3 is that you've got a lot more access to your effects than a keyboardist does. Keyboardists usually operate sustain with their foot. I operate sustain with my left hand. And you can, for example, yesterday I set the slider to control cutoff. So controlling those effects is an important part of playing the keytar. Your neck is there for a purpose and you should learn what that is. So one of the important things you have on that is placement. Placement is a thing that's very important in harps, so we're gonna grab my harp real fast. I bought this harp for $56. One of the key parts of playing the harp is placement. It's getting your fingers... your fingers need to be ahead of what you're playing. You can put your fingers on the strings. Unlike with guitar and to a certain extent piano, you can just hold your finger on the strings. It doesn't affect anything a whole ton. Like with guitar, you have to have the strings ringing when if you move your fingers, you're going to mess it up. You're going to mess up your chord. But with harp, you can just stick stuff there ahead of time, and so when you do a run like that, you go... And before I play that next C, I'm already up where I needed to be with my... And when you're doing that, when you're playing the Keytar, you need to do that placement too. It's my... Ah, damn. I lost my chord progression saved in this when the battery fell out. My SHS-10 doesn't have a real battery cover, it's got a piece of tape. But if you're playing your instrument and you need pitch bend, you can put your finger on the pitch bend wheel several beats before you need to actually... Oh wow, we're gonna play that game, are we? Why did you delete my chord progression but you saved my pitch bend settings? Oh. So if I'm gonna play that riff, which has pitch bend, it's got portamento, and it's got vibrato in it, I can keep 3 fingers on those buttons, but if I'm also running a rhythm track on this, which is really the SHS-10's best feature, is that you can completely accompany yourself. Also, it's like the most low-maintenance, easy-to-use Keytar ever, because you don't even need an amp. The downside is it doesn't sound very good, but... And now my finger's already over portamento. Nope, we're going cello. Figure out what parts of your song you want to control with what, and then make yourself do that. You can go as slow as you need to until you can get it properly. Metronomes are fun. Playing a drum backing track is fun. I have a tendency to grab style number 4 and do that. Nope. Helps if you turn the fucker on. I get kind of like hypnotized playing something when I've got the drum track. I'm like, I gotta keep going till the drum stops, I gotta keep going, and that's actually a great way to practice. So you've got learn a chord progression and a riff. That should be like your main goal. And you achieve that goal by practicing your scales and your arpeggios and your chords, scales and chords and inversions. If you just want something to play while you're practicing, while you're warming up, 5-note scales are super great because you have 5 fingers, and most chords are most major chords are the 1 and the 3 and the 5. So when you play it, you can go... And you can do that all the way up and all the way back down. And just do it until your fingers can do it without you having to pay attention, and do it until your roommates hate you. And then there is one last thing that's very important for guitarists to do that's a trap you can fall into. And that is... When I fall off this bed and die, it's because of you guys, and it's because I love you. You gotta practice standing up. Like, you can sit down, you can work on the basics. I like to work in bed, as you've seen by the fact that I do all my videos in bed. Working, standing up, I find it's really helpful to have a mirror. There's a mirror, like, right there. That's why I keep finding myself creeping over towards it. Because then you can get used to watching your fingers without looking down. And practicing standing up is basically the thing that separates guitarists from keyboardists. Keyboardists practice standing up, but they practice standing up like this. We practice standing up like this. And when you've rotated all the keys 90 degrees, you have to figure out how to do things differently. Let's go back down. So if you aren't going to, or you're not able to practice standing up, practicing like this does a lot of good for you too. Because if you're really good at keyboard, you're really good at keyboard, but that doesn't always translate to really good at Keytar. And that lets you also take full advantage of things like everybody's favorite element of the vortex, and practice with a metronome or a drum track or something too. There's several people on YouTube who make, they call them guitar backing tracks, that'll have a chord progression with like some bass in it, and you can practice riffing over that. That's actually a good way to practice too. And if it sounds wrong, don't do it next time. Why are you so sleepy, Kinky Tail? The last bone on her tail bends at a right angle. We don't know why it happened before she was my cat. So yes, I've gotten very derailed several times, but so here's things to practice when you think you don't know shit all. So pick a song and learn it, which was my no shit thing. Just find a song and focus, play the same notes, see if you can get it to sound right. Look up chords, practice those chords. Later you can work on putting in rhythm and things like that, but just learning how to play chords and how to change them quickly when you need to. Pay attention to your chords, your chord inversions, your scales, and your voicing. So pick scale. If you need to, like pick a major scale. Let's be like that one. Practice that again until you know it so well that you don't need to think about it, or until you hate everything about music, in which case go take a 15-minute break, go to the bathroom, eat some cotton candy, make yourself feel better. And then practice again tomorrow. Take advantage of everything that your Keytar offers you. If you don't know what to do, I highly suggest setting something really easy for you to access to control cutoff. And on an analog synth, cutoff is arguably the most important knob. Don't buy a synth that doesn't have a dedicated cutoff knob, is what I've learned this Christmas. And play standing up, even though it's way harder to frame your camera in an attractive way. Practice standing up, maybe in front of a mirror. People come in and they're like, hey, what are you playing? And you're like, I don't know, it's 2 a.m. Gonna say bye-bye. Yeah, you are. Say bye-bye. Look at the camera, say bye-bye. Yeah, they love you, kitty. They love you so much. Now, you can't get on me, I'm just about to turn the camera off. I'm about to get up. We're not gonna wait 17 minutes for the camera to auto shut off, sweetie. We're gonna turn the camera off. We're gonna turn the camera off right here, right now. At least this is gonna be a good end slate. Like, this is gonna look good as I post all the other links there. But we are really gonna have to